I want to congratulate both Rich Lux and Keemstar for falling into the alt-right pipeline.
Dennis, is everything okay in there? This guy in the alt-right? Dennis, I know we don't get along, but with all due respect, what the hell are you thinking?
Keep your hands to yourself. We're not crossing.
Okay, I get it. So because Rich Lux dared to criticize Ethan Klein for some insensitive comments towards the LGBTQ community, you decided to lump him in with the alt? Right? Not gonna lie, Dennis, even with your raging boner for this 4-year-old man in mind, I don't fully understand how you made that connection. But let's hear a bit more of what he has to say before I make a final judgment. Maybe he was just joking.
I have to preamble this by saying this is not a joke, okay? We are at the cusp of witnessing the fusion of YouTube drama and political commentary on the internet. I want to congratulate both Rich Lux and Keemstar for falling into the alt-right pipeline and supplying motherfuckers like Gavin McInnes and Tim Stool with the narratives that they want so they can continue to work against progressive causes, which is, at the end of the day, exactly what Rich Lux and Keemstar wanted, right?
Yeah, Dennis, this guy wants to work against progressive causes. Now, let's not judge a book by its cover, alright? Rich Lux looks furthest away from the alt-right, and Dennis looks crazy here, but there is a slight possibility that the actions of these people don't match their looks. Who knows? Rich Lux could be conspiring to take down the gay community from the inside. So let me just show you this entire situation in full, so you can properly judge Rich Lux based on what happened, rather than what I or Dennis or Rich or anybody else says. So as established earlier, this all started due to Ethan Klein on his podcast indulging in some humor at the expense of gay people. Here's how DefNoodles described the situation in his video about it.
Anyway, folks, moving on to Ethan Klein. A few days ago, some fans of the H3 podcast got upset with Ethan because of a phone call between Ethan and a fan of the podcast where they discussed being a bottom, and some people got upset with Ethan because of some of the questions that Ethan was asking. They also thought that Ethan was rude to the caller. However, after the show, Ethan ended up apologizing on Twitter, but that didn't really resolve the situation because over the next couple of days, people continued to express their discontent. So at the beginning of the latest episode of the H3 podcast, Ethan apologized again, and then he explained some of his thoughts around this whole situation.
Having said all that, which I genuinely feel, and especially, I was very insensitive to the caller, the whole pushing, the comment specifically where I was like, I could tell what you are based on your voice or whatever. Very, very gross and bad, okay? Like, I totally acknowledge that.
So, it seems like a pretty open and shut case. Ethan made some distasteful jokes, he apologized for it, but Rich Lux still made a video criticizing Ethan regardless. So now let's see what he has to say.
Ethan Klein has offended the gay community, girl. Attack! The skinny legend has spoken. Alright, so Ethan Klein on his podcast yesterday said some very offensive things to people. He even got called out. We have the clip. You're gonna be shook, girl. Yes, long-time listener, first-time caller, roll it.
He has some anal leaking. If he's getting blasted in the ass hard enough, potentially, you may need to wear a diaper. I don't think vaginas increase in size from sex, but assholes actually do. If you have a lot of anal sex, you can actually blast open your anus. Frequent anal sex can result in a blasted open asshole. Maybe he's just got railed real hard the night before. He's a power bottom. Power bottom is a guy who likes to wildly ride the peg of another dude while he jacks you off until both have boner orgasms. Okay, we have a call about the top-bottom stereotype. So, Matt, what have I got wrong?
I know often you feel inclined to describe someone where you think they might be a bottom. I think that that's often a misconception, that, like, bottoms may be passive. You can't always tell, like, who's the top, who's the bottom.
So do you find it offensive if I say, by being like, oh, he's probably a bottom? Is that the problem?
Absolutely.
It's offensive.
Because the gay men already, you have to deal with certain assumptions about femininity and masculinity.
I mean, it is funny though. I don't know. I think the problem is that the term power bottom is very funny to me.
Ascribing certain roles to people, that's all I'm asking for is just be a little more conscious of it.
So would you consider yourself a top or a bottom, or you don't do that, the labels?
And I mean this with all peace and love and with respect, Ethan. It's none of your business.
But you have a preference one way or the other?
But that's another dangerous assumption, too.
Can I guess?
A lot of gay men don't.
Will you tell me if it's right, if I guess right?
No.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get into it, Matt. But we all know which one you prefer.
But as long as you understand where I'm coming from on this.
To be honest, I don't really.
Okay,
To be
but
on the
what do you
bottom
think
is
a
to
power
give.
bottom
It's
is?
to give. You know, it's a gracious thing to give and to receive like that. But like, if you are a regular receiver of anal sex, and I'm not saying you are, I don't know. But if you were, does the poop pass like any differently from before? Or is it all normal functions? Like I get it doesn't leak out, but I wonder if it just comes out a little different. Apologies to whatever his name was. Apparently, I was homophobic to him, but whatever. What can you do? People say it was gross and disappointing. Saying you can guess if Matt is a power bottom by his voice is so gross. But I was right. That was the point. Wasn't I? He admitted.
Yeah, of course you were right. And honestly, just so over these fucking people. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. It's a fucking entertaining show. Shut the fuck up.
Someone says, I don't know what's up.
So disappointing.
Someone said,
grow up. Jesus fucking Christ.
Dan.
I don't know what's up with Ethan today, but something's off. Bad vibes this episode.
Shut the fuck up. Unsubscribe. Go away. Jesus Christ.
Someone said, it sometimes feels like Ethan thinks LGBTQ plus people are exotic or something. It's super uncomfy. Yeah, I think y'all need to fucking... Do you think it's hard for a straight person to understand how it feels to always have people define you by how you prefer sex? Is that a valid criticism?
No, I'm so fucking frustrated with these people.
Get the fuck out!
So wait,
Shut the
what was
fuck
I?
up.
Where did I even? Do you think some of y'all are way too fucking sensitive
No.
for the show? To be totally honest, like people in this thread who are saying they're grossed out and whatever. I think this with peace and love, you might be too sensitive to watch this show. If you're watching this show and you're perpetually offended by things I'm saying, you may want to just stop watching. Like genuinely, like does get annoying with some of y'all getting offended all the time. Come on, you talking about power bottoms is like me asking Ela if she likes it in the front or back. Does she ride your cock or like you pounding her? Respect, Matt. Not cool, dude.
Okay, so we have a lot to say. Please put your comments down below before we get started, because I already know y'all are going to have a lot to say about this drama. Leave it down below, girl. Do I think that Ethan Klein is homophobic? No, I do not think, though. What I do think is that Ethan Klein could have a lot more education about the situation.
So that's just a very small portion of Rich's opinion. The video he made was over 30 minutes long, so if you want to hear an in-depth opinion piece on this situation from the perspective of a gay man, I highly recommend you go check out that video. Or you could listen to a straight guy downplay the severity of his straight friend's homophobic remarks by continuing to watch DefNoodles.
I think it's important to contextualize this whole situation because people seem to be upset about some off-color jokes that were made about being a bottom on a comedy podcast during a phone call between the host and a viewer, to the point where they've been literally trying to cancel the host and the crew and the podcast itself for the last 3.5 days. Meanwhile, people like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Ben's company, The Daily Wire, Republican politicians are working in a concerted effort to label the LGBT community as pedophiles, as groomers, as predators, and to even go as far as to try to completely erase them from American society. The real enemy here are people like Gavin McInnes, who start hate groups, who are ultra-nationalistic, who believe in racial purity, and are actively working against progressive causes, who actually hate the LGBT community. And what we're doing by literally dragging Ethan Klein through the coals is giving people like Gavin the fodder so that he can influence people against progressive causes and the very things that we work for every single day. I want to congratulate both Rich Lux and Keemstar for falling into the alt-right pipeline and supplying motherfuckers like Gavin McInnes and Tim Stool with the narratives that they want so they can continue to work against progressive causes, which is, at the end of the day, exactly what Rich Lux and Keemstar wanted, right? But should we really be that surprised?
This guy's insane. His logic makes no sense, or almost no sense. So because Rich Lux criticized Ethan Klein for homophobic remarks, which he himself apologized for and acknowledged was wrong, that gives ammo to the alt-right to go against Ethan because these alt-right figures don't like Ethan because he's left-wing? wouldn't they go after Ethan regardless of this mistake or not? And if this mistake is such huge ammunition for the alt-right to use against Ethan Klein, shouldn't the fault lay on Ethan Klein for making those insensitive jokes in the first place, not a prominent member of the LGBTQ plus community calling it out? It just seems so backwards to call Rich Lux anti-gay for calling out Ethan's homophobic remarks because the alt-right can use that criticism against Ethan Klein, who is pro-gay rights. Like, this is the most insane amount of mental gymnastics just to take some more blame off of Ethan. Dennis, Ethan is an adult. He already apologized for his mistake. You don't need to help downplay it by pointing at critics of Ethan's bad behavior like Rich Lux and Keemstar as being the problem, going as far as to calling them alt-right. I can maybe understand losing the bigger picture a little bit due to your affinity for Ethan, but when it results in you calling Rich Lux alt-right, it might be time to reevaluate how much your bias towards Ethan Klein affects your ability to rationally think. Which, by the way, is a criticism I also have for Keemstar, as he recently said that this situation with Ethan Klein making gay jokes should result in his channel getting terminated, which, in my opinion, is just way too far.
Like, dude, you don't, like, your channel should be terminated. You can't do this stuff. You can't do this stuff. I don't know how this is allowed on YouTube.com. Like, you can't do this.
I personally don't think it's called for termination, but yeah, it's super
I think
bad.
all homophobia should be terminated.
If you want to see Keemstar's full thoughts on this, it's up on Augie RFC's channel, so at the end of this you can choose between the Keemstar perspective or the Rich Lux perspective. A bit of a choose your own adventure situation, but at the end of the day, Ethan Klein is just a man on the internet. The extreme idolization of Ethan as well as the extreme antagonization of Ethan is just dumb. Let's look at these situations as they come and judge them on an individual basis, rather than going into it with an extreme bias on one side or the other. Because if you don't keep your biases in check, you might end up calling Rich Lux a member of the alt-right. But that's about it for this video. If you have any opinions on this situation and DefNoodles' extreme defense of it, be sure to tell me in the comment section below. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on. And if you want to keep more up to date with me, you can check out my Twitter and my Twitch page. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.